As the crisp autumn air settles in and the leaves turn fiery shades of orange and red, October 31st and November 1st have long been dates shrouded in mystery and ritual. Across various cultures and throughout history, these 2 days have been marked by ceremonies, beliefs, and practices that suggest a link between the living and the dead, light and darkness, and the natural and the supernatural worlds. Could this connection between October 31st and November 1st across different traditions point to something deeper, perhaps a thinning of the veil between the worlds? Let's delve into the ancient and modern practices surrounding these dates, explore the myths and beliefs from various cultures, and consider whether there might be more than just coincidence connecting them. Hypothetically, it's possible that these rituals run across the globe and point to a universal truth about the nature of reality and the spiritual world. One of the earliest known traditions tied to October 31st comes from the ancient Celts, who celebrated Samhain, marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of the winter. Samhain was a time when the Celts believed that the veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest. Spirits were said to roam the earth, and people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off harmful entities. Offerings of food were left outside to appease wandering souls, and ancestors were honored with special rites. The transition from October 31st to November 1st during Samhain symbolized more than just a changing of the seasons. It was a cosmic shift. The barrier between worlds weakened, allowing spirits to cross freely. This is where the roots of modern Halloween traditions such as trick-or-treating, costumes, and haunted themes can be traced. But beyond Halloween's commercial evolution, Samhain represents a deep reverence for unseen spiritual forces governing the universe. In Mexico and many parts of Latin America, the period from October 31st to November 2nd is celebrated as Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. Those often associated with Catholicism, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. The festival's origin predate European influence. Indigenous cultures like Aztecs held rituals to honor their deceased ancestors, believing the spirits of the dead would return to visit the living. Far from being a time of fear, Dia de los Muertos is a joyous celebration of life, death, and the ongoing relationship between the living and the departed. Families build altars they call ofrendas, with photos, candles, offerings like food, flowers, especially marigolds, which are said to guide the spirits back to the world of the living. Like Samhain, this tradition highlights the belief in the thinning of the veil and the dead returning to share the joy and festivities with their loved ones. The key commonality here is the idea that from the night of October 31st through November 1st, there's a special window of time where the dead are closest to the living. Whether seen as a moment of vulnerability, as in Samhain, or as celebration, as in Dia de los Muertos, the connection between those two worlds is recognized by both cultures. When Christianity spread across Europe, it incorporated many local pagan customs, and the Catholic Church eventually established All Saints' Day on November 1st, followed by All Souls' Day on November the 2nd. All Saints' Day is meant to honor all saints and martyrs, while All Souls' Day is a day for praying for the souls of the departed, particularly those in purgatory. Though these Christian observances are less mystical than their pagan and indigenous counterparts, they maintain the same basic premise: a time to acknowledge the dead and to bridge the gap between the earthly and spiritual realms. The placement of All Saints' Day on November 1st, directly following Samhain, is no accident. It was deliberately designed to replace pagan festivals with Christian rites. However, in doing so, it reinforced the idea that this period marks a unique time when the spiritual world is particularly close. While Japan's Obon Festival occurs in mid-August, it too shares thematic elements of Samhain and Dia de los Muertos. Obon is a Buddhist custom where families welcome the spirits of their ancestors back into their homes. They offer them food and light lanterns to guide them. Though the dates differ, the spiritual concept of honoring the dead and believing in the temporary return to the realm of the living resonates with themes observed in October and November elsewhere. China's Ghost Festival, usually held in the 7th month of the lunar calendar, shares similar elements of ancestor worship and appeasement of restless spirits. Though it takes place midsummer, rituals like burning paper offerings and food sacrifices are made to honor the deceased and protect the living from vengeful spirits. The Slavic Zadi, which is held on October 31st, was a pre-Christian ritual for communicating with the dead. Offerings of food and drink were made to ensure ancestors' favor and protection for the coming winter. It's remarkable how cultures from the Celts of ancient Europe to the Aztecs of Mesoamerica and even parts of Asia have traditions that align closely around the idea of the veil between the living and the dead thinning during a specific time. Whether it's Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, All Saints' Day, or Oban, the connection theme is there, and it is a common theme which demonstrates a sense of temporary connection between the worlds that are usually separate. Could these beliefs point to a real phenomenon? While many of these rituals were born out of spiritual rather than empirical observation, the global consistency of the idea that October 31 through November 1 holds specific spiritual significance is intriguing. Could it be possible that there is in fact a metaphysical or energetic shift during this time of the year? From a purely scientific standpoint, there's no concrete evidence to support the idea of a thinning veil. However, if we approach the topic through the lens of collective consciousness, or the theory that human beliefs shape reality in ways not fully understood, we might consider whether these shared traditions hint at something more. Perhaps the seasonal shifts, when autumn gives way to winter, create a psychological or energetic state that makes people more attuned to spiritual experiences. In many ancient cultures, the changing of the seasons was viewed as a liminal space, a time when the natural world undergoes transformation. It's possible that the perception of a thinning veil is an archetypal symbol of this transitional period, reflected in diverse yet eerily similar cultures. Ultimately, the link between October 31st and November 1st and the idea of a thinning veil between worlds remains both a fascinating cultural phenomenon and spiritual mystery. While we may never know if these beliefs point to a universal truth, the rituals that continue to this day suggest the human desire to connect with the unknown, especially during this liminal period, and it is powerful and enduring. Whether real or imagined, the bond between the living and the dead continues to captivate and compel us, generation after generation. As you look up at the night sky on October 31st with the moon glowing overhead, it's worth pondering. Are the spirits truly closer than we think? Or is the connection between these dates a reflection of our own deepest hopes and fears about life, death, and what lies beyond?